Good morning, everybody. My name is Eileen Moynihan, and I'm living in Ireland, and it's actually afternoon here. So, good morning, Nancy.
Good morning. It is morning here, and I'm living in North Dakota, USA, and we are, I think, 6 hours apart.
And this is our author chat, and today we're going to talk about AI, which myself and Nancy are a little bit scared of, but we know it's a sensitive topic at the moment, and we just want to discuss how we feel about it.
Right.
So, I mean, there are advantages and disadvantages as far as I can see. And I feel like if we're not on board, we're going to lose out. But there's the fear then of how is it going to affect my creativity as a writer? And will it be dictating to me, or will I be dictating to it? How do you feel, Nancy?
Well, like you, I'm a little bit trepidatious, but I'm very curious about it. And I did open a ChatGPT account. I've yet to use it. And I have some of the fears, of will it strip me of my creativity if I'm not practicing my writing without AI? Will I be gaining further ground and getting better, or will AI help me? And I have come upon some ways that I think AI could just prompt me. So I'm willing to start at that level.
Yes, I find it very curious, and I'm interested again, like you. I had ChatGPT, the free one, at the start, and I have played it around with it a little bit, and it's really interesting to see what it can do. I did find now that some of the facts, when I looked them up, weren't exactly right. So that's something you have to be aware of. But what I found interesting was when it get it to analyze my own writing style and give me feedback on that. That was very interesting. And then setting it a task of maybe doing the next paragraph or the next chapter. So maybe if you're stuck in a chapter or your plot, it might give you some ideas. But then do you just, okay, it's fairly like my style, but there are some words now that I wouldn't use. So I think you have to kind of analyze what it's given you and say, would that fit in there now or not? And
that would
I also have to fear that I'm actually kind of cheating like you would in an exam. It's not my own work. So what do you think, Nancy?
Well, I feel the same way. Would I be cheating? And would I use the words it might suggest? And in the editing process, I've come across that where a word has been suggested to me rather than what I used. And I'm like, oh, but I would never use that word in a million years, or maybe I don't even know that word. So
Yes.
not that it wouldn't be better, but would it be something I would say at this point in time? So I have at times in editing not used that word, but maybe found another one. And I think with AI, it would be the same. If you're going to stay in charge of it, you would, if you're going to be in control, you would look it over and decide yes or no. Now I have a question for you though. When you had it analyze your writing, how exactly did you do that? Did you ask it a specific question?
Yes, it was actually, I think it was somebody else gave it to me of specific questions to put to AI. And it kind of covers your vocabulary, your style, your punctuation, your turn of phrase, cultural aspects, all kinds of things. And it was quite detailed, and it was very interesting, and it was nice to get some like good feedback. It was kind of good for me. I don't think I got any really bad feedback, thank God.
Yeah.
But it's good then to see that when I said, could you do the next paragraph in what I had written in a chapter? And that was interesting too. And I thought, oh, I never thought of going down that road. It was an interesting kind of plot turn. So I think it could be of help as long as you don't get too dependent on it.
Right. I wonder from what you just said about how it looked at your grammar and maybe punctuation and that kind of thing. It would be interesting to take that as they suggest it and use it and then give it to an editor and see if they agree. Because when it comes to commas and things like that, there's all kinds of opinions on how it should be done. And so that would be just an interesting thing to try. But for myself, I think the first thing I might do with AI, if I get back into my Chat GPT, hopefully I can still get in there. It's been so long, is help me come up with a title. The book I want to write this next year is the first time that I have not been able to come up with a title. And this will be my 13th original book. I was in a collaboration, but I cannot settle on a title, partly because the first few things I chose are all over the internet, other books with that title, even very similar subtitles. So I want it to be a little bit different, and I've just gone round and round. I think I might ask for some suggestions from AI concerning the subject matter and what they might say would be.
That would be interesting, but I just wonder now, because those titles are out there on Google, will it be picking up that from the internet too and feeding that back to
Oh,
you?
that's a good question. And it's kind of, you know, you want it to be a title that would be found. So if somebody's typing in keywords and they found that title, but they found 25, 30 books with that title, you know, the question is, do you get lost in that sea of 25, 30 books, or do they find you? But if you have a very different title, would it fit into keywords people are typing in? And so I'm just wondering, yeah, how AI would answer that, and would they pull from those titles? That's a good question. I'll let you know how that turns out.
Talking about titles, I've been thinking of doing a second collection of poetry. My first one was called Dipping into the Font. And I don't, what keeps coming into my head is Finding the Scribe.
Okay.
And I was kind of Googling that yesterday, and it's seemed to be something to do with video games or something.
Oh.
So I'm not sure, but it's still in my head. So that'd be interesting to put to AI as well, you know?
All right, that would be good. They might even come back to you talking about that video game.
But you know, sometimes something just comes into your head, and that's where creativity works.
Right.
You don't know where it comes from, but it kind of something you might just hear or you read,
Right.
or it just comes into your head. So I think you have to keep feeding that creativity and not get lost by using AI.
Right. And one aspect, I think I may have said it earlier, I wouldn't want my AI help to make my writing sound too perfect.
Yes.
I like the little glitches to an extent that writers might have in their books, or odd ways of saying things. And sometimes they purposely want them said oddly. And I don't mind a book that has some errors unless it's just written with errors. That's difficult to read. So I don't want it to take that, you know, the faux pas and whatever we have as humans totally out, yet we want to make it as best as possible. So there's a fine line there. And as I was telling you once before, some of the old shows and movies that my husband and I like to watch that were done before digital came in and before AI was a thing, they're really a joy to watch because they're done so differently. You know, like one that comes to mind is the original Star Trek series, and how they had this one set for inside the ship, you know, the, what do they call the command room? But anyway, you know, things were done kind of awkwardly, but the actors really had to act. They had to do the part because they didn't have the external help. And so when they were hit by another ship, they all had to lean and get knocked the same way. They couldn't go opposite directions. They had to figure that out, like choreograph it. And then the other thing I learned was when those doors, automatic doors open, they're not automatic doors, not at that time. They had people behind those doors that on cue pulled them open to look like automatic doors. So, you know, it was very creative what they did to give us the illusion of what we saw. And I like that, you know. Later, when more digital came out and AI, things changed. And of course, we still enjoy shows and movies with that. But there's a lot to be said for that human part of those actors having to put so much into it that wasn't built in for them already. So that comes to mind for me when I'm thinking of using AI, that type of thing.
Yeah, because I immediately think of stage acting, and even the audience. Sometimes, if there's not too many props, you have to use your imagination. Imagine you're there, and they might be out in a boat at sea, or pretend acting that out, and you have to be there.
Yes.
And imagine that you're there.
Mhm.
So that's interesting.
We wouldn't want AI to take away the imagination or creativity. And
But I wonder, will it should aid our creativity
right.
and help us grow maybe as well.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really at the beginning stages yet, and screenwriters in Hollywood and actors and everything have been protesting against it because they don't want their jobs taken over by AI. And the movie people can save money by using AI instead of real people. But I think there has to be kind of the creative people have to work with AI, and they use it as a tool
Right.
and not them being the tool of AI.
It can be our creative tool, you know. Aside from titles, even subtitles, you know, we can ask for a subtitle. I know a few people who've used it to help them figure out different scenarios that might happen. You know, they place their character in a certain place and they ask AI, now, what are the different scenarios that might happen to this person in this place? Like, maybe even more specific, what kind of scary or deadly or what kind of situations might this person encounter in that scenario? And they got a long list of ideas, you know, to draw from or put together to create their own.
Yes, that's what I think is a good idea, because give you some different ideas and that you think about them as a creative person then, and then put your own twist on it.
Right.
But definitely, if you've got writer's block or something, it could be very
Yeah.
helpful, I think.
Yeah. On a day where you can't think of something, you know, as far as how it affects other authors, I know we've talked before in other circles about authors who have had books put out by others using AI only, using the same name, and it creates a problem for buyers, consumers, that was this written by the true author I read, or was this written by the AI person or written by AI who used that name? There was one scenario, I know some of these are in court, but there was one scenario, some of you might have heard this, where there's an author named Stephen King, spelled like the Stephen King. It's his name, he can use it. It's not a pen name or anything else. And so it gets a little bit shady maybe if one author's using AI and the other one's not, who wrote what and whose book is whose. And that came up a little bit more, I think, once authors started using AI to write an entire book. Oh, and then using illustrations from online that came from many places, and then others would say, well, those are the illustrations I created or I used in my book. And so the overlap that makes it a little bit unclear as to who owns what.
Yes, there is the real issue of copyright, and I think definitely, like for the artists now, if some of their pictures have been used, even if it's a mishmash, that they should be paid for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did the initial creativity, so there
Right.
should be some reward for them, even
Mm-hmm.
if it was only a little bit of royalty or something.
It's not so different than when we go online to look for photos. Some of those are copyright protected, at least up to a certain extent. And you need to be sure, you know, you're not stepping on the copyright. Other places we use like Unsplash, where they have free photos you can just use. And those photographers may have been compensated already and
Yes.
their photos purchased to be in there. And I love going to those sites because I don't have to worry about the copyright of using it in a way that's not okay. I was reading one yesterday, like, oh, can I use this photo? And it appeared for the way I was going to use it, it was fine. In some other ways, no. And I wasn't going to make money off of it either. So,
Yes, you have to be very careful with copyright. As you say, maybe like the photos, the free photos that you can get, they
mhm,
might set up illustrations, maybe even writers, I'm not sure,
right.
so that they could get compensated in one way or another.
I mean, think about it. If it's your own photo or book, you want you credit for it. You know, it's your name, it's your copyright, even if it's not registered. And you don't want somebody taking it and claiming it, you know, unless they want to ask you and get permission or purchase it from you or something like that.
Well, I know that Amazon and other places now are asking people to declare, have you used AI for this to
Right.
help you, or was the whole book done by AI? So you have to be kind of honest now.
Mm-hmm.
they're going down that way, going down that road. So
I did see that last time I published, there was that question. I'm like, oh, there it is.
so it's creating a lot of new ethics, really.
It is. It is.
So there'll have to be guidelines, and I suppose the more we go on with it, it'll become clearer what you can do and what you can't do.
And you know what people, excuse me, what people will accept. It kind of scared me a little bit when I saw online that AI created therapists were offering their services to help people, you know, like a psychologist or paid therapist you would go to. And I thought, oh, that's kind of spooky to me. This is an AI generated person. It's not a person.
Yes.
They are given through AI all these things to help the person who's talking to them. And I'm like, that's new.
So it might be good initially,
Hmm.
but I would definitely say you'd want to go to a human after that, after saying, well, could this be right? Or,
Yeah.
you know, to get some kind of physical examination to make sure what's
Right.
wrong with you. Yes.
Or make sure you're getting psychological, good psychological answers, you know.
Because, I mean, I know definitely if I've got some symptoms, I start Googling, and then you scare yourself, oh, I could have this and I could have that. And is it fatal?
Right. And that brings us to the point how often we're using AI without even thinking about it.
That's
On
true.
smartphones and when we Google things, using our computers, we are using AI. And on our smartphones, you know, who's giving us those spell corrections? AI. Who's giving us interpretive line or whatever you call it? AI. So that's coming from computers. That's coming from other knowledge put into our devices already. And we use it daily. And there's so much of it we don't even think about. Some of it we don't like, you know, it annoys us. But I personally do like the spell check. That helps me a lot.
Yes, it's very handy.
Yes.
But I mean, the younger people now, I mean, they're having trouble at the universities and schools now because the students are using AI to do exams and write essays. So they're coming up with technology now to see whether to analyze it, to see if it was done by AI.
Right.
So there's more technology coming on to check it out.
Right. I read one story where a student, a male student, got all the way through law school, and it was all using AI. He got his
Wow.
law degree using AI. I'm like, whoa. Now you got to be pretty smart to even do that. I mean, to
That's true.
use AI to get through that. But I did also hear about the programs they're coming up with to check if it's AI or student done, you know.
Because when you think, sorry, I was just thinking about calculators. When calculators first came out, people said,
right.
oh, they won't be able to add up in their heads or do subtraction or do this in their head. But they have to learn those skills. But once they've learned those skills, then it's faster an exam to do the thing on a calculator. And but it shows that they know what method to use, that they know that it's going to be subtraction, they know it's going to be division or whatever procedures needed. So, I mean, that's using the technology and using your brain as well.
Right. Well, in some ways, it's been with us for a while, but it's a much bigger way now. And I do think we have to get on the bandwagon. I mean, we are inadvertently, but in maybe more certain terms, to get on the bandwagon to at least know what we're dealing with and how we might use it, how we might reject it.
Yes.
I've read articles on writers purely 100% rejecting it. And I've read articles that others who can embrace it, at least to a certain extent, and others who have really embraced it. So it's pretty, authors have reacted to it in a few different ways.
Yes, they
Some
have.
have just jumped in and others are kind of tiptoeing in the water. That would be
That's me. I'm more sitting on the fence, I think.
Yes, I'm a little bit like, well, wait a minute. Let me just see. But I'm a very old-fashioned person. So, I mean, but I use technology. I love my computers. I love my phone. I like technology, and it is very interesting. and it piques my curiosity.
Because I used to be teaching, and I remember doing a course for teachers on computers, and it was like basic programming at the beginning. I found it, because I wasn't great at maths, and I found it very complicated and difficult. And now it's so easy to teach computers and programs, and that's just the way things have moved on. Things get easier as they go on, I think.
That, and also just go in, one step at a time. I have an echo here, and use it. Little by little, we get more proficient. It's the fear of never stepping in that keeps people back. If you just do a little at a time, like anything, you do a little at a time and you practice and you do more and more. And then
So I
you
think,
can utilize what you want to and not.
yeah, I think definitely play with it, get
Yeah.
used to it, and discover what it can do, and say, well, could I use it for this? Could I use it for that?
Mhm. Yeah,
So I think try not to be afraid of it.
right. Maybe be a little courageous to enter the brave new world.
That's it.
What's out there. I mean, who knows how it might benefit us. I think just like any other advancements in the world, it can benefit us, at least in some way, to some degree. The rest we don't have to use unless, well, generally we wouldn't have to choose to.
So I think you have to judge yourself, how much you're going to use it, and what's of benefit to you and what's not,
Right.
what you're comfortable with. So
I think we're kind of in the same place there. You've
yeah.
delved into it a little more than I have, but I think we're kind of the same frame of mind there and thoughts on what we might do with it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I need to get back and look at it more and play around with it more now again.
Maybe that'll be a New Year's goal, to learn more about AI and how to use it.
It's true. So thank you, Nancy. It's been very interesting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for joining me again. So this is the middle of December. Generally around 3 months from now, we'll have another quarterly author chat. And we don't know our subject yet, but we will by then. And by then we might have used AI more and have something to say to follow up.
So I want to say happy holidays to everyone.
Yes, happy holidays. We tried to wear Christmas colors today, and Eileen, show me your sweater. Got a beautiful Fair Isle design. Yeah, I love those. I'm pretty plain, but I do have a snowflake because we do have some snow on the ground and I love snow. So happy holidays, everyone.
It does.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we will see you in the new year.
Bye.
Bye, Eileen.